Welcome, everyone, to the fifth annual Omer Aliyah, a 7-week spiritual boot camp of personal elevation, or simply known as TOA. My name is Nuriel Shore, and thank you for tuning into the Netzach seminar of our 7-week empowerment series. TOA is a global grassroots movement for every Jew around the world to utilize the power of Sfirat Omer and reveal our individual and national greatness. Inside each of us is a light waiting to be unleashed, and by systematically rectifying spiritual blockages with Hashem's help, we will not only transform into the greatest versions of ourselves, but will also generate blessing for the world. Iteruta dil tata, iteruta dil ela. Our actions below will cause actions on high. By embarking on this journey together, we travel in time from Pesach to Shavuot, forming a global collective consciousness of Ish Echad Belev Echad, one person with one heart, just like our people experienced over 3,300 years ago at the base of Har Sinai. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our community partners and to thank and recognize our sponsors who are part of this grand vision. Suzanne Schweitzer, Fred and Susie Tocek, Josh Reef, and Charlene Venner in memory of Nathan, Shirley, and Philip Venner, Zechron Levracha. For more information about being a community partner, a sponsor, or TOA in general, visit www.omeraliyah.com. We are currently in the week of Netzach and have the pleasure of learning from Sarah Pactor. Sarah is an award-winning sought-after speaker and author. She has lectured internationally for over 18 years and is the author of Ever Enough and Small Choices, Big Changes. She's also the host of Starstruck with Sarah Pactor and Aish podcast. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping remarks. The seminar is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Omer Aliyah YouTube channel. I'll then stop the recording, after which we will have an opportunity for open and confidential conversation with Sarah. May Hashem bless the Omer Aliyah and all who are involved, so that we may experience individual, national, and global Geula speedily in our days. I now hand it over to you, Sarah.
All right. Hello. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I loved that video. That was great. And I first of all want to start by thanking you so much for the invitation. This week we're talking about Netzach, and our topic is called Winning Against All Odds. Okay, so let's start. I got a call from the fastest Jewish runner in the world today. His name is Gal Arad, and he's going to be competing in the 2028 Olympics, which is very exciting, representing Israel. And he calls me up asking me to help him write a speech for this event in New York that he was speaking for. Now, he knew me because I had interviewed him for an Aish article and he saw my TED Talk. And so I said, you know what, Gal, I'm writing speeches all day long. Like, you've come to the right place. Let's do it. So I helped him formulate his speech. And it was such hashgacha, it was such divine intervention, because the week that he randomly called me was the week that I was working on this talk. And I said, oh my goodness, this guy represents everything Netzach is about, because his story is not about speed. It's not even about winning races. His story is about failure, getting back up again, and becoming greater because of it. Now, before I tell you his story, I just want to quickly define Netzach for everybody in the room. Netzach is usually translated as victory, winning, determination, endurance. But let's be real with each other for just a minute, okay? I believe that this is the week in the Omer. Even if you are still counting, at this point, if you're not a part of this seminar per se, right? You know, the midot have sort of taken a back step, right? That first week, as you mentioned, is chesed, right? Chesed, I got chesed. Kindness, I could do it. Gevura, okay, fine, no problem. Strength, I got it. Boundaries, no problem. By the time we get to the third, fourth midah, now we're at Netzach. We're like, what is Netzach even? Like, what are we doing here? Oh yeah, I'm too busy with my life, right? We're done. And here's the thing. The moment you want to give up, that's where Netzach begins. Because Netzach is not about feeling strong. It's about what do you do when you feel depleted. So let's set the stage with Gal Arad's story. It's unbelievable what he was able to accomplish. Again, he's the fastest Jewish runner in the world today. So when he was a teenager, he was living in Israel. And he's watching the news with his parents one night. And the news report came on, and this man by the name of Arik Einstein, who was a famous Israeli singer, had passed away. And the entire country was mourning. So it mentioned, one of the newscasters mentioned that Arik held the national record for high jump in Israel. Now, this sounds very insignificant. You're like, why are you telling me this? Because Gal's father looked at Gal and he said, hey, you're a good athlete. Why don't you train for a couple of months? Let's see if you can get a national record, maybe in running or something. And that'll be something that you'll hold for the rest of your life. This is what helped brought Arik Einstein fame. Maybe you'll be famous too. So Gal was sold. Okay. He starts training for 2 months. He's training, and he's ready for the competition. And 2 nights before the competition, his school went on an overnight trip, which he joined. He gets sick on the overnight and he competes anyways, not feeling a little bit under the weather. And he came in second place. Okay. Probably because he was somewhat sick. So he trains again the next year and he's training even harder and harder and harder. And now he moved up an age bracket. So he still came in second place, even though he had improved a lot. Fine. He doesn't give up. He trains again and again and again. The following year, he's in 18U, that's 18 and under, and he won all the races that year, holding the national record. He became the fastest Jewish kid in that age bracket of Israel. Now, he said to me, this was mind blowing. He said, Sarah, had I not gotten sick that night when I was 14 years old, I probably would have won. But had I won, I would have stopped right then and there. I never would have raced again. I would have gotten my title and moved on with my life. The only reason that I am the fastest Jewish runner in the world today is because I failed and I failed and I failed again. And I want to let that pause and sink in for a second because that's really the first lesson of the evening. It is precisely the failure that brings us to a place of success. So he opened up his talk, the one he gave in New York City, the one I was helping him with. He was speaking to a group of young professionals, and he opened up his talk with the following question. He said, all right, guys, listen up. How many times, he said, if you failed the SATs, would you try again before giving up? Okay, so some of the kids were like, I don't know, 3 times. Some of them were like 5 max, right? He goes, guess how many times I failed before breaking my record and becoming the fastest Jewish runner in the world? He said, take a guess. He said 90 times I failed. That was 6 years. He lost after loss after loss after loss. And only after that point did he become the fastest Jewish runner in the world. I do want to open up something about myself, which I've never admitted publicly before. So we'll decide afterwards if we're going to take it out of the recording for the masses. But, I do a lot of writing for Aish. I'm sure, Noriel, you know that. And I do a lot of writing for the Jewish publications. And at one point, I had all these articles, and even the LA Times, right? So I had all these articles in different Jewish publications. I couldn't get an article with Aish.com. Couldn't get it in. Do you know how long it took before they accepted one of my articles? Okay, I'll tell you. 5 years. 5 years. Rejection email after rejection email after rejection email. Okay. Today, they consider me to be their #1 writer. I've broken records on their website, but the failure, right? That rejection letter fueled me to try again. We'll decide if we keep that in for the end, okay? Second part about Gal that really, really struck me was his ability to beat his own record. He wasn't competing against anybody else. It was conquering himself. That was the hard part. So here's a crazy part of his story. He came to America. He was recruited by Drake University in Iowa. This was back in 2022. And he's, running for them, et cetera. And then another college, the University of New Mexico, recruited him. And he's recruited and recruited and recruited. He said it was the best time of his life. Everything's looking up. He's in great shape. Everybody wants him. And then summer of 2023, a new coach came on board. And this coach was completely unfit for coaching. She was highly anti-Semitic, and she used to really single out God. He was the only Jew on the entire team. Everybody saw what she was doing, and I'm not even going to tell you how she behaved after October 7th. So Gal, after October 7th, finally had enough. He approached the head coach, the head of the entire sports arena of the school, and he complained about her. Instead of doing anything about it, they kicked him off the team. And he now was not allowed to compete with his team. He wasn't allowed to train with his team, nothing. He's completely sent to the side. So he, for the entire year, trained on his own, and he was going to have to, at the end of the year, compete against his team. Okay, he woke up super, super early. His team would wake up early for practice. He'd have to get up even earlier than them. Late, late at night, they would be practicing. He'd have to practice after they were finished. Just to put this into perspective for a second, I I have a chavrusa with somebody at 7:15 once a week every morning. This is Pacific PST time here in LA. This person is overseas. And somebody asked me, one of my friends, she was like, "How do you get up so early for the chavrusa?" And I'm like, "Hello, I have accountability to another person, right?" But Gal, the only person he was accountable to was himself, and he still did it. So one night, late, late, late one evening, he is training, he's running, and his muscles were extremely weak from the lactic acid. So after his jog around the track and field, he literally plops himself onto the grass, lies down. He is completely exhausted. Muscles are just beat. And he looks up at the sky. Remember, he hasn't won in 6 years. He hasn't won a title at this point. And he's looking up at the sky and he goes, maybe this is just not my path. Like, maybe it's just not meant for me. And on cue, he said, it starts pouring rain, like from a movie, like a scene from a movie. And it's raining and it's raining. He still can't get up because he's so weak. He only got up once the mosquitoes started to eat him alive. But he had a 1 day rule. 1 day rule. He said, it doesn't matter what happened the day before. When a new day starts, I train again. And he conquered himself. He got up again. He almost gave up on his dream that night. He didn't have a crystal ball that was going to say, don't worry, in a few days, you're about to win. He had no idea how close he was to competing. So the competition that he had been waiting the entire year for was a few days later. It was against his team. He did not sleep the night before, imagine. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. He finally falls asleep. He's got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning for the race. And he's thinking to himself, there is no way I am winning this. Like I am a zombie, right? His body was just shot. And he pulls up to the race. He's on the block. You know, when they have the racetrack and it's the innermost block, he's standing there. He said it's the hardest one because the turns are the sharpest. He's standing there and they go, on your mark. He's a zombie. They go, get set. And as soon as they said the word set, something lit up inside of him. He just woke up and they pull the trigger. The race begins and he starts flying. And he's going. His body has that muscle memory. He's going, he's going, he's going. And his friends in the audience said that people were standing up, staring at him. They'd never seen a human run so fast. And he's gaining speed and he's gaining speed against his team that he was originally with. And he could hear the coach screaming at her teammates, you idiots! How could you let him beat you? He trained alone this whole year. She was going crazy. He won every single race that day. And he really surprised himself with what he was able to accomplish on his own. So the other two pieces, right? We have the conquering yourself. We have the failure leading to success. And I just want to say one thing about conquering yourself. He didn't have any teammates to push him along while he was training. I'm going to make it relatable to myself for half a second. I go to an all ladies gym sometimes, which is like a Pilates class, and you're in this plank, imagine you're working out. I feel like I want to collapse, but then I turn to my right and I see this like froomy looking woman. She's got a snood, she's in her skirt, she's 10 or 15 years older than me, and she's doing the plank no problem. And I'm like, well, if she can do it, I'm not dropping, right? She doesn't even know that she's motivating me, but the people around us actually motivate us. And he was alone. He conquered himself. And this is really in life. It's not a competition of you versus anyone else. You have to be better today than I was yesterday. That's it. That's true winning. And I believe that it's found in moments where you want to speak negatively about somebody, but you hold yourself back. It's when you want to yell at your spouse or your children and you just conquer yourself. Or it's when somebody screams at you in front of other people and you maintain composure, right? It's conquering yourself. And the last piece of this Galarad story is instead of being crushed by his anti-Semitic coach, he became an even greater runner. He expanded himself and he literally flew to the finish line. So we have 3 points. Failure caused his success. He conquered himself and showed up no matter what. And he expanded and broke barriers he did not think were possible. These to me are the 3 aspects of Netzach. And I want to go deeper into each of these ideas, bringing in some Torah to them. I'm going to highlight 3 different people with a Torah idea, and then we're going to bring it all together. Okay. So first point is failure causes success. I'm going to highlight the first person I'm going to highlight is actually my father-in-law. Okay. A lot of people brag about their kids. I brag about my father-in-law. He is an incredible, incredible human being. His name is Dr. Leon Pactor. Nothing phases the man, okay? He is a world-renowned surgeon, chair of surgery at NYU Hospital. He was the doctor to the President of the United States for many, many years. There's actually an award at NYU called the H. Leon Pactor Award, okay? He's an unbelievable human. And I want to start with something that seems a little bit insignificant. When my son was 5 years old, we made a birthday party for him. Okay, this is in LA. My in-laws came into town, my parents came into town, and it was the night before his birthday party. So we decided to fill up the car with all the things we were going to need, right? The plates, the paper goods, the balloons, etc. And while we're going back and forth from the house to the car, we left the door open for, I don't know, 3 minutes maximum. And in that 3 minutes time, an opossum came into the house. Now I'm making LA sound like we are the sticks, but there are raccoons and opossums here, certain places. So the opossum comes into our house. It's not cute. I don't know if anybody has seen an opossum. It literally looks like an oversized rat, okay? This massive white opossum, 50 pounds, huge tail. If anyone has ever seen the old school movie Princess Bride, okay, it's that monster looking rat thing, and it's slowly making its way up the stairs of my house to the crib where my baby is sleeping. I'm panicking, okay, absolutely panicking. My father-in-law, what does he do? Quickly, less than 10 seconds later, grabs a tennis racket, doesn't say a word, doesn't make a sound, walks calmly up the stairs, guides the opossum down the stairs and out the door, doesn't make a sound, puts the tennis racket away, sits down on the couch, opens up his paper, right? His newspaper. Nothing phases the man. At one point, it's a much longer story, but I'll shorten it. He was giving a lecture in another city and he had to get to the airport. And there was an accident on the airport, and he really wanted to make it home in time for Shabbos. So, accident on the highway. Nobody's moving. It's a parking lot. He gets out the car and he starts walking to the airport. Like, who walks to the airport? Who guides an opossum out the door without making a noise? My father-in-law, because he is a man who was born on the run from the Nazis. His first memory was begging for a spoonful of peanut butter in a DP camp, right? In a little bowl of soup with a potato inside of it, right? For him, walking on a highway, getting an opossum out the house, that ain't no thing, right? So he survived. Yes, he was on the tail end of the Nazis. He survived. He was illiterate until he was 10 years old. He never went to school. And somehow, this man became a world-renowned doctor. How did he do it? Failure. Every single week, my father-in-law runs something called M&M, which is called morbidity and mortality. This is in the hospital. He gets every single surgeon together and they talk about what went wrong and what went right. Now, a study was done in Philadelphia about what makes surgeons successful. This is fascinating. What makes top world-renowned surgeons? This study was brought to my attention by Dr. Ariella Agustin, not even my father-in-law. And they said that when surgeons got together, the surgeons that blamed, I don't know, it's the light wasn't right, or the nurse didn't bring me the tool in time, or this or that, those surgeons remained stagnant. But the surgeons that looked at their mistakes and said, you know what? I could have done it a little differently. Maybe that wasn't the right incision. Maybe the timing wasn't right there. Those were the surgeons that soared. Because when you face your mistakes, when you face your failures, that breeds success. We see this from the Torah with Adam and Chava. Adam and Eve, they eat from the tree of knowledge, good and evil. We know the story. It's famous, right? What do they start doing? They're blaming each other. He blames his wife, she blames the snake, and Hashem calls out, Ayeka, where are you? Hashem knows where they are. Hashem sees everything. Why is he asking, where are you? Because he's saying to them, I'm giving you the opportunity to step forward, face your mistake, stop blaming everything around you, and finally become successful. So that's part one. The failure can lead to success. Let's look at part two. Conquering yourself when you feel depleted. I met a woman here in LA. She's from Israel. Her name is Orit Edinger. I had lunch with her at a friend of mine's house. Unbelievable woman. She literally radiates light just the way her name says, Orit. Okay, she wakes up every morning at 4:30 in the morning. She appears on the Israel Morning News, Channel 13. Everybody calls her Sunshine. She's always happy. She's always sharing a joke. She's always talking about hope. You would never know the horrors that this woman has experienced. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of what I'm talking about. When she was 16 years old, it was the last day of school. Summer vacation is out. She's all excited. She said it was the best day of her life. She's free as a bird. And her parents decided to head on a Friday afternoon with two of her siblings. Now, she is one of 10, okay? Two of her siblings go on a Friday afternoon to spend Shabbat with her grandparents. And she stayed behind with her cousins and a bunch of her siblings. 6 minutes into their drive, their car gets ambushed by terrorists, okay? By the way, these were terrorists that were released in a prisoner exchange years prior, just saying. 29 bullets were shot. Her father was killed. Her siblings were shot at. Her mother had such damage, her eye was taken out from this part of her forehead all the way to her cheek, gone. She had so much brain damage that in a way, she lost her mother as well, even though she stayed alive. Because for 1 full year, she thought her deceased husband was still alive, and she was on the phone with him, talking to him as though he were alive. Imagine, you're 16 years old. Essentially, you lost both of your parents. How do you move on from that? What she did was when she was visiting her mom in the hospital, she noticed that other people in the hospital didn't have visitors. And so she created an organization called Or Michael after her father, and she matches up volunteers with those people who need visitors in the hospital. So she was able to create light and move on. So what happens next? Her cousin, named Elchanan, becomes a father figure to her. He and his wife, they literally pay for her wedding. They walk her down the aisle. They literally become her parents. And on October 7th, Elchanan went to Kibbutz Be'eri in order to try to save Jewish lives. He saved 100 people that day, and he was killed in the process. So now her new father figure is gone. And then her older brother, who was in the Mossad, was killed. 3 deaths in a matter of years. And she's depleted. And she said, Sarah, the first time you have a Shiva, it's terrible. But the second and third time, you know how long the pain and grief is going to be. You know the road you have to travel. It's much, much harder. So at this point, she's broken. She's shattered. And an IDF officer called her and asked her to come to the north to, give words of encouragement to the soldiers that were about to go into Gaza. And she's texting him back, this IDF officer, and she says, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm broken. Like, I'm healing myself. How can I help other people? She's about to press send. And she says, wait a minute. There are mothers. Do you think the mothers in Israel want to send their 18-year-old to war? No. Do you think that people want to go in an ambulance and pull out dead bodies? Absolutely not. Nobody wants war. She said, but we're in war. We don't have an option. There is no option except to win. And I have to do my part as well. So she gathered up her strength, even though she felt depleted. And she went out to talk to those soldiers. And she's there. She's telling them, have strength, have hope. And she told them about how her brother was in Gaza. Currently, at that moment, One of the soldiers raises his hand. He says, Orit, aren't you scared for your brother? She said, oh, no, I'm not scared for my brother. I'll tell you why. I already had three losses. Hashem is not going to do another loss to our family. Let me tell you, like we're protected. It's protexia. God's lightning's not going to strike again. And she finishes her speech. She goes into the back room with her uncle and another soldier, and they're sitting having a coffee in the back room. And three soldiers come into the room. And she immediately goes, wow, thank you so much for your hard work. We're so grateful to you. And she's just thanking them, thanking them, thanking them. They interrupt her. They say, are you Orit? She said, yes. They said, we came to inform you that your brother was killed in Gaza. She said, I didn't even cry, Sarah. I didn't even believe them. I was so shocked. I said, it's not possible that Hashem would do this to me again. So she's sitting in Shiva a fourth time, you understand. And each time they have a Shiva, there's less and less family members. So one of her friends, not the most tactful statement, but one of her friends said to her, Orit, every time you've gotten up, you're happy again, you're happy, you're happy. What are you going to do this time? How are you going to find happiness this time? And she said, I'm determined. She said, it doesn't matter the circumstances. Happiness is a choice. And she sat there and she thought, and she said, you know what? Yes, I'm sitting Shiva. Yes, I've lost my family. But you know what? At least I'm sitting Shiva in my house. She said, there's tons of Israelis that have to sit Shiva in a hotel because their house has been destroyed. At least if I want some privacy, I can go to my room. I can take a walk. There's space inside of my house. I'm not confined to a hotel room. And she found the light in the deepest depths of darkness. The most touching part about her story to me is when she felt totally, when she had nothing left inside and she went to go speak to those Gaza soldiers anyways. It's when you don't have an option and you create an option, you have to win. So she went to speak not because it was easy, not because it felt good, but because giving up wasn't an option. And when I hear her story, I finally understand what Netzach means, what victory means. Victory is not that you are spared pain. Victory is that the pain does not erase your future. So that's our read story. Let's look at part 3. And this is that I think the most important part of Netzach, which is expansion. Okay? So I have to tell you, I was looking for a zinger for this class. You guys know me. I love my little zingers. And I'm like, Hashem, give me a zinger. Okay, I found the zinger. As I was preparing this talk, this song kept replaying in my mind over and over again. Okay, it's from Tehillim 20. Hem akaru v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu v'nitodad. Our enemies fall, but we get up strengthened. Okay, and for some reason, this kept replaying in my mind over and over again. So, by the way, when I was younger, I hated when people brought in sources, but now I love it. So I'll tell you this very interesting thing. Va'anachnu kamnu v'nitodad. The word v'nitodad, what's the root? It comes from the word od, which means to become more. Through falling, we expanded. We became more of what we are. That's the secret of the Jewish people. When we fall, we don't just get back up. We expand. We become even greater than we were before the fall. And one of the best examples that I have, I hope that he is going to listen to this because I spoke to him today and I told him I'm going to be speaking about him. This is Alon Masika. I don't know if anyone has heard of him. Alon Masika is a jeweler in Israel. And on October 7th, his son went to the Nova Festival with a group of friends, and he was trying to protect his girlfriend, and in the process, he was killed. All right, so obviously Alon Masika is utterly depressed, but he found a very, very unusual way to deal with his pain, and you have to hear this. It's unbelievable. He's sitting, after his son passed, he's sitting in his office one day with his other son, Or, utterly depressed, like barely can get out of bed. And Or, to kind of lift his spirits, his other son shows him a video of a soldier getting married. And he goes, wow, he's so happy. Wow, that's amazing. He said, you know what? The next soldier that gets married, that wants to get married, I'm going to give them a free diamond ring. And his son goes, are you crazy? Like, what are you thinking, Abba? Like, it's so much money. He says, I don't care. It's going to make me feel better. So he puts a little note on Facebook. He says, the next soldier that wants to get married, you want to get engaged, reach out. I'm going to give you a ring. 6 minutes later, somebody calls him up. He says, here's a ring for you. Great. Gives him the ring. He gives him a hug. He's so happy. The next day, somebody else goes, oh, did you give away the ring yet? I'd love the ring. He says, I'm sorry, buddy. I already gave it away. I'm so sorry. And the soldier says, oh, I don't have any money. I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm going to even get married. He says, you know what, buddy? Come on over. I'll give you a ring too. And he gave him a ring. And he gave and he gave and he gave. On Sukkot, we went to Israel. We met up with him, my husband and I. At that point, he had given 200 rings away. Do you know how many rings today, just a few months later, he's given away? 326 and counting. He has not stopped giving away rings. And he told me today, 5 babies have been born from these marriages that he helped create. That's unbelievable, right? This is what it means to expand, because what I love about this story is that his intention was to just give one. It was just one ring, but he expanded himself. He kept giving, he kept stretching himself, and through that, he became even greater. You know, he could have stayed in bed, wallowing in despair, but he got up and he expanded himself. And if that's not victory, then I don't know what is. You know, in Egypt, all the Mitzrayim and Paro said, Pen yirbu, lest they multiply, we got to destroy them, the Jews meaning. And Hashem said, Ken yirbu, Hashem had other plans. We will multiply. But it doesn't just mean in numbers. It means in expansion and becoming greater and reaching out and connecting with one another. So to illustrate that very briefly, there are beautiful, beautiful redwood trees in Northern California. They're massive, right? We're talking like to date, the largest redwood tree in existence is about 5 million pounds, okay? But the roots only go about 4 or 5 feet deep, which makes no logical sense that you have millions, a tree that is over 1 million pounds and only 4 or 5 feet deep of roots. It doesn't make any logical sense because the roots don't grow down. The roots grow out. They reach out and they connect to one another. And through that connection, they all stand stronger. And that's what it means. Va'anachnu kamnu v'nitarad. We fell, but we got up together and we become even greater through that expansion. Now, I have one last question that I'm going to bring up because we're talking about how we're the Am HaNetzach, we're talking about the eternal nation, we're the nation that wins, we're the victorious nation. Like, are we really so victorious? Like, honest, right? Is it like, when is this war going to end? When are we going to really finally complete this conflict? So as Mark Twain so famously writes, against all odds, we're still here. Every single nation has tried to physically destroy us, to try to knock us down so that we would never, ever, ever get back up. And instead, we have risen every single time and chosen hope and chosen future. We are still choosing to rebuild. Against all odds, let me tell you something. Gal Arad, there's no way that he should have won. Everyone told him, you're Jewish, you're short, you have no chance, buddy, give up. And yet he's continuing. The odds were certainly against my father-in-law. He was born on the run from the Nazis. He wasn't supposed to survive. And yet not only did he survive, but through his survival, he has completed over 10,000 surgeries, saving the lives of many, many other people. And let me tell you something. The odds are against you too, my friend, every single one of us in this room, because the chances of you being born, and I learned this from Mel Robbins, the chances of you being born to the parents that you were born to the religion that you were born into, in the city you were born in, the odds of you being you are 1 in a trillion or some other ridiculously high number. It does not make sense that you are here. If you are here today in this room, in this world, you have some serious purpose. So how do we fill that purpose? How do we fill that Netzach purpose? And I believe that this week, when you experience a setback, and we're all going to have setbacks, we're all going to have failures, when you feel stuck in something, just remember to strengthen your hope again and to try one more time. Hashem writes, Kave el Hashem, put your hope in Hashem. Chazak v'yametz libecha, strengthen your heart. And then it says, V'kave el Hashem again. It says, put your hope in God. Why would it say Kave el Hashem twice? The Torah is not usually very redundant. Why would it do that? because just at the point where you want to give up, where you feel depleted, where you have nothing left inside, that's when you have to again put your hope in God. I want to illustrate this with a beautiful idea from Rav Biederman. A lot of us have heard of Rav Biederman. It's gorgeous. He says the Gemara writes that if a person prays and he's not answered at first, he should pray again. So people ask, what do you mean pray again? If it didn't work the first time, what makes you think it's going to work the second time? And he answers with a beautiful analogy. Imagine, okay, you're in your house, you've got your phone on you, and you lose your phone. So where do you go looking for your phone? You might go to the car, you might go to the kitchen, you're going to go to different rooms. But let's imagine you are in your office at 11:45, you used that phone, and you have not left the room yet. It's past 11:45, you know you have not left the room, but you can't find your phone. Where are you going to look for the phone? You're going to look in that room because you didn't leave the room. You know that it's not in the kitchen, it's not in the car, it's not in the dining room, it's in that room, and you're going to keep looking and looking and looking until you find it because there is no other address. And this is what Kave'el Hashem means. You know that Hashem is the only address. You're not going to look for things in other places because there is nowhere else to turn to. So daven and daven and daven again. And that's what it means to be Am HaNetzach. I have one more idea that I want to share because it's not just that physically we were persecuted, right? Spiritually, we keep getting up over and over again. Nobody can take away our hope. And this is where I want to just say two more little pieces and then we're done. So speaking of hope, there was a brutal study done at Harvard back in the 1950s, 1959. Dr. Kurt Richter placed a bunch of rats into a pool and he wanted to see how long they could tread water for before drowning. Okay, and he found, and he would pick them up right before they drowned and he'd put them on the side. The max amount of time they could tread water was, take a guess, 15 minutes. 15 minutes, 1-5. Then he lets them rest for a minute, throws them back in the water. He wants to see how long they can tread water for. Guess how long they treaded the second time around? You think 16 minutes? You think 17 minutes? 60 hours. 60 hours they were able to tread water. This is unbelievable. Why? Because since the rats believed that they would eventually be rescued like they were the first time, they pushed their bodies past what they thought was possible. So I want to explain this. If hope can cause exhausted rats to swim for that long, what could belief in yourself, belief in your abilities, and belief in Hashem do for you? And speaking of Kave'el Hashem, this is our closer right here, okay? I promise this is the last thing, okay? So I was driving with a bunch of kids. I was driving carpool. I had like 6 or 7 girls in my car, and we were playing the song Kivinu Kol Hayom by Mordechai Shapiro, which means we hope in Hashem all day long. And the girls were screaming, okay, singing, really screaming at the top of their lungs, the song. Oh, the whole car is singing Kivinu Kol Hayom. And at the same time, who's driving by? This car with a Mashiach sign, a Mashiach poster on the car. And I'm thinking, wow, we got a car full of kids crying out, Kivinu Kol Hayom. We got a Mashiach car to my left. Hitler would be rolling over in his grave, right? He tried to destroy us. We are still here in Los Angeles, in various cities around the world, hoping for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We had one Beit HaMikdash, right? We were saved one time. And here we are, we're treading water, Hashem. We are waiting for you. We are waiting for you to pull us out again. And this is what it means to be the eternal nation. It's the nation who will eternally have hope. Because we are not a nation of odds. We are beyond statistics, and we are the Am HaNetzach. And that is what Netzach truly means. So thank you so much. Thank you to Nuriel Shore, and thank you to everyone who joined today. I'm so grateful, both live and not live. Thank you.
That was wonderful, Sarah.
Thank you.
Truly, truly wonderful. So much rich content around Netzach for us to digest, uh, view the recording once more, and take these lessons to heart for the rest of our lives. I have to mention a couple of things.
Cool.
There's this trait called zirizut that is connected to Netzach. It has to do with zeal, alacrity, and the Ramchal explains this, very famous Italian rabbi from several hundred years ago, explains that it's the lunging forward to do a mitzvah and to follow it through. And when I asked you to consider joining us for a second year in a row at the Omer Aliyah, you jumped at the opportunity and you were the embodiment of Zirizut. So I thank you so, so much for that.
Yeah.
There's another thing I just wanted to mention. I had to because you mentioned Gala Rad, your father-in-law, these incredible stories. And there are many beautiful quotes by rabbis in the guidebook for the Omer Aliyah, but there's one that's not done by a rabbi. And I'm going to see if you guys can guess who said the following. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Michael Jordan. So the greatest basketball player of all time would wholeheartedly agree with Sarah in terms of this dynamic of Netzach. For those of you who are interested in learning more about Sarah, please visit her website at www.sarahpactor.com. She speaks to many, many different audiences, many different platforms. Check her out. And again, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Omer Aliyah YouTube channel. We'll see you, B'ezrat Hashem, next week for the Hod seminar as we continue our climb to Har Sinai. Thank you, everybody, so much.